how have you held up? I mean, this year, everybody seems to have their own little story about how they've made it through the craziness that has been what we've experienced so far this year.
Right. Actually, you know, I feel kind of bad in a way because I don't feel like my situation was overly crisis-like. You know, it just I continued to work and do band stuff, and you know, we were able to kind of, outside of a short pause, kind of really do a workaround with getting stuff done, trying to be a little more creative as opposed to like feeling like it's an all or nothing thing. Most people feel, you know, you talk to a lot of people and they feel like their lives have been on hold for 6 or 8 months and nothing goes on, but I can't sit still that long. So yeah. Pandemic or otherwise, it's like things got to get done. And I think if I didn't have, you know, music stuff to do, you know, it would be a lot more stressful and everything. So, you know, as far as the band is concerned, we found workarounds to get stuff done, and we did the recording in June, and we were able to rehearse up until that point, and you know, still make things happen.
Awesome. Yeah, I mean, that's kind of the one thing I've noticed that's got me through this year is there's been a lot of good music come out. You guys are going to grace us with a little bit more this year, so I mean, the more the merrier. I've had an infinite amount of time to sit at home and listen to records, so I love the fact that people are putting out good stuff.
Yeah.
So Satanic Singles, first session drops November 6th, and then another one in December, another one in January, another one in February, right?
Yes.
What made you guys decide to do a series of singles, of covers at that?
Right. Well, you know, up until the covers, we'd basically put out, you know, 6 full-length records in the last 6 years, one of them a double. So there's been like a kind of like a nonstop, you know, churning out of original stuff, and you know, stuff that we, you know, enjoyed doing. We didn't feel rushed or anything like that, but it's just the nature of the band that we like to write, we like to record, and we like to put stuff out. But you know, again, after 6 full-length records, you know, we thought, you know, for ourselves and maybe for people who are actually interested in the band, it would be a nice change of pace to you know, do some covers. And when we kind of came up with the concept, is obviously not a completely original idea, but you know, this was been over a year and a half in the making. And since that there seems to be quite a few bands now that have latched on to that idea. Some of them awesome, you know, but definitely some labels and some bands that really felt like this was a really good time to do some covers. I'd like to think that we were a little bit ahead of the curve, but you know, it wasn't a completely original idea. But I thought it was good for us for a break, you know, just to kind of change things. You know, we write, you know, 20-minute songs, and you know, so even people who are fans of the band, you know, are be like, wow, you know, it's a real investment sometimes time-wise, you know, to sit down and listen to a Clouds Taste Satanic record. So when actually we told people about the idea of like, you know, oh, maybe doing some like, you know, shorter covers, you know, people were actually very enthusiastic, almost to the point where like, whoa, you really want some shorter material, and you know, something you're a little more familiar with. So it seemed like a really good idea for us just to kind of take a breather and try something a little different, and for people who are interested in the band, you know, to try to give them a little bit of a break.
Definitely. And I know I was super excited when I saw some of the choices. I don't want to say dirty little secret or whatever, because you shouldn't be ashamed of whatever music you like, but I'm a giant Elton John fan. Good. Huge Elton John fan. So as soon as I saw that, I was like, oh, hell yeah, I want to hear that song in the Clouds Taste Satanic format, and really dig it, by the way. Really like it.
Thank you.
And so how did you pick the songs that you picked? Were these songs that you had played live occasionally, or just totally stuff you know, messed around in your head, or you know, what was that selection process like?
Well, it was actually very democratic. It is stuff that we never played before, but it was like, you know, we always think of the band as, you know, well, bands always like to think of themselves as like 4 individuals or whatever, making unified decisions. That doesn't always happen in reality. But this was one where, okay, we're 4 people who really like music, you know, so it shouldn't be that overwhelmingly difficult to come up with everyone choose a couple of songs. we all get on board and it's going to be like magic. And of course, that is never the way it works out. When you put 4 people together, tell them, you know, ask them what kind of music they want to cover and play, or even if they like, and then, you know, try and figure out a way of saying, well, I want this song, and then convince the other 3 to like, oh yeah, that's a great idea, you know, let's do that song. So it was a lot harder than it should have been, because it's like everyone, although I will say, you know, everyone has kind of completely a diverse taste in music. A lot of people were on board with the choices that 1 or 2 made. There was definitely compromise, you know, and that's the thing too, you know, that's the hardest thing for bands, is to, like, you know, find one song that, you know, 3 or 4 people can say, like, yeah, I like that song and I want to play it, or I like that song and, you know, I think it's going to be time spent. So the original idea was, okay, everyone was going to choose a couple of songs, and they were going to kind of pick, and everyone's going to get on the same page, and it did work out that way, but it is kind of a diverse group of songs. And if you look at it, you know, all 10 that we actually did, from an outsider's point of view, there's no real rhyme or reason to, other than they're essentially rock based in essence. You know, the reality is most people, even people who are really into doom and stoner, they've got a diverse interest in music. You know, it doesn't just come out of the ether. They didn't just like come out going, oh, Black Sabbath, that's all I ever listened to. You know, it doesn't work that way. People have a lot of influences on a lot of different likes and things like that. So I think hopefully this, if anything, this kind of like shows a bit of a diversity. But yeah, there was some definitely weird choices. You know, I mean, we were all, in the end of the day, kind of on the same page, and we were going to be supportive of one another. And, you know, and even if some of the choices were, you know, not even necessarily of a band, but the song of that band. For example, the next record, I can tell you, we're trying to keep some of them a surprise, but the next record has a Chicago song.
Nice.
Yeah. And well, first of all, not everyone's a Chicago fan. And
No.
The song that we picked, what basically the drummer wanted to do was If You Leave Me Now, which is, you know, Chicago's got some riffy tunes. You know, they go back to the 70s. There's some, and so there's a bunch of songs that would have made a lot more sense than that ballad. And we were like looking at one another going, what the hell, dude? This song is like ridiculous. I mean, it's ridiculous for, even if you're open-minded about music, if you're into rock, that's a really weird choice. But he was like adamant, it's like, this thing's gonna work. It's gonna be working. It's gonna sound great. I love this song. I was like, okay. So we sucked it up, and it does really sound really good. It hopefully sounds nothing like the original, you know, other than melody a little bit. But you know, so it was a compromise. You know, you see a lot of labels now doing like, okay, we're doing the best of Black Sabbath, or we're doing the best of Alice in Chains, and whatever. Zach Sabbath doing the first Sabbath record. It all kind of makes sense, you know, and it really kind of fits the genre. This is completely not that type of thing. It does have a Black Sabbath song, but for the most part, they're kind of like all over the place. And it just came down to not a master plan, which is not usually the way we like to operate. We really like to think of things ahead of time. And this seems more like scattershot, but it was kind of the nature of the thing. Just like, okay, it's going to be what it's going to be.
I know a lot of studios weren't open, or you know, how was that like for you guys? Or was it different than what your normal recording process, or was it kind of business as usual?
The major issue was rehearsing. We had kind of worked up the songs and we're kind of getting ready to record when March came along. So it kind of slowed things down it probably put us off maybe a month or so than we normally would have. And that was the big issue, was just not having a rehearsal space to do it. We had, you know, the place that we usually used was closed, which it turned out to be a blessing in disguise, because it really motivated us to get our own space that we could go to on a regular basis. It was just something we should have done a long time ago. The recording studio is owned by a guy that we've known and recorded with for a couple of years. We had to wait. Well, by the time we were ready to record, we had to wait for him to be ready, to be comfortable enough to, you know, have us in the studio. It helped that we knew him, and that, you know, made the process a lot easier. But, you know, outside of, again, maybe a month of delays and a little more mask usage, it was pretty much business as usual, other than the material itself. And I was happy to, you know, and I really feel like getting over that hump. I think I had a little more concern about the record pressing plants and shipping and things like that. You know, it's like trying to stick to some sort of schedule about releases, and that gets a little more complicated because, you know, everyone's got delays and things like that. But it has not been as bad as it could have been. So hopefully we'll have those singles into people's hands soon, and you know, we're moving towards other stuff as well.
Awesome. Now, speaking of moving towards other stuff, we talked a little bit about it, how, I don't want to, maybe accessible is the word, that these covers, aside from being something that people are likely a little more familiar with, the time frame that, you know, you can listen to 2 songs in the time it would normally take to listen to one Clouds Taste Satanic song. Going forward after this, do you think that that's going to change your writing process a little bit, and maybe the next album harkening back to more like Your Dream Has Come, where the songs were a little more compact, or is it going to be another 2-track 45-minute record?
Well, weirdly enough, like in the pandemic thing, you know, when I had more time to like sit and think, I started going in the complete opposite direction. And I was like, okay, well, we've done single records, we've done double records. Why not a triple? So imagine not four 20-minute songs, but 6 20-minute songs. And I mentioned it to the band, and they had looks of horror on their faces, you know, justifiably so. I was like, okay, it can be a triple record, and maybe we'll throw in a bonus 7-inch on top of that. You know, they were like, you know, what are you, insane? I was like, okay, well, maybe that's a tad a little overambitious. I get it. There's a lot of practical and financial reasons for avoiding a project like that. I don't know. That's a good question. I honestly don't think so. Right now, the stuff that we're working on is kind of like back into the 20-minute means, and I am kind of pushing for another double album the next time, going bigger rather than going shorter. You know, I've always said that a 20-minute song is just basically, you know, 3 6.5-minute songs. You know, it's not, you know, if you choose to feel like, you know, and there is a rhyme and reason to the 20 minutes. There's a start, there's a middle, and there's an end. But at the end of the day, it is, you know, the way you view music and the way you consume music is that you don't necessarily have to listen to all 20 minutes. They are basically sections, you know, that are kind of put together and they flow. Yeah, it kind of remains to be seen. We're kind of back now in the point where we're working on the next record, and we're working on new material, and there hasn't been a lot of calls for shorter songs, mainly because we're kind of comfortable in the environment. You know, we don't mind sitting there and playing for 20 minutes some piece of music and feel like it's, wow, this is really dragging on too long. If anything, it forces us to be a little more dedicated, because, you know, if you played a 3 or 4 minute song, you play it and then you drink some beer and you talk a little bit and you hang out. Whereas 20-minute song, you're playing that song for 20 minutes. That's a solid 20 minutes of actually practicing you're doing, rather than bullshitting or getting high or whatever, or talking about what happened today. You know, so it actually focuses us a little bit more. But, you know, who knows? We try to keep an open mind. But like I said, I've got to rein back the bigger is better. I really want to do the triple record. I really want to shock people and be like, yeah, when was the last time that you got a triple album of original material? You know, there's not that many.
No,
I actually Googled it.
I'm sitting here trying to think, and nothing's jumping to the front of my mind. I got a bunch of double records,
but yeah, a triple record that's not like a live record,
mm-hmm.
or a compilation of things, like an actual triple record of original material. I have there's a Sun and Boris record.
Okay.
That came out, I think it's almost 10 years ago. I got some flash on something that there was an anniversary of it, and it's like a triple record. It's I mean, Sun records are long to begin with, but this is like, you know, between the 3 of them, it's just like So it's a real marathon to get through all 3 records. But yeah, I really appreciate the ambition, you know, and I think ambition is really missing a lot in, I've always said that, you know, and that there's a lot less ambition with bands and with people's attention span too, you know, especially in the age of Spotify. People want to switch real quickly. I mean, that's the thing's been going on for a while, and I'm like, okay, well, we could do that, but there's something really exciting about, and you're not gonna sit there and listen to all 6 sides in one, you know, life necessarily doesn't allow you that much time. But I like ambition. I like, you know, shattering people's expectations about like what we should be doing, and we'll see. It hasn't been fun. Get a heavy package in the mail. It's like, oh my God, this thing wasn't done.
No, I can definitely appreciate that. It was a conversation I had with a friend of mine the other day that we were listening to a record, an old Acid Bath record, and I was like, this is an hour and 7-minute album. Like, when I was a kid, that was kind of more the norm. Records were almost an hour because everybody was putting out CDs, so it didn't, time constraints weren't as big of an issue. And now that there's the push for vinyl again, and not a lot of people have the ambition to try to do the double vinyl or, God forbid, the triple vinyl. So everybody condenses their output to these 34-minute, 35-minute records now. And like you said, I feel like I love it. I pretty much only buy vinyl and don't really buy CDs anymore, but I do feel like we lose a little bit. Like I get to the end, I'm like, that's it? You're not going to put out anything else for another year? Like, that's what I got, was those 6 tracks, and maybe a year, 2 years before you put something out. So I definitely appreciate somebody who wants to dump a wealth of music on me all at one time. I will find the time to get through
back in the 70s, the early 70s, I guess, or maybe even the mid 70s, bands were expected to put out 2 records a year.
Yeah.
Every 6 months. And I was like, holy crap, that's a lot of, and then tour. It's like, hello.
When I first got into Sabbath, and you would notice that the albums they were cranking out 2 or 3 a year, and you're like, oh, these albums are only like 35 minutes. You're like, wait, that was like every 6 months they were putting out 30 some minutes of music, versus now, the expectation has certainly dropped as to how much music you're supposed to put out.
Right. Wow.
So I've been asking everybody this one because I know I miss going to shows. I'm sure you miss playing shows. Give me a good tour story.
It's mostly like, rising from, the ashes, the adversity of something going wrong and it turning out to be like, something that wasn't as bad. We played the Maryland Festival. I think that was the last big festival we played. I guess it was 2019. And right before we're supposed to play, our bass player's amp head went completely zonkers, and we're like, we're the last band, and it's like, trying to borrow some equipment, and it worked out, and we were able to, get it and play, and the show turned out to be great, and it was enjoyable. But it's sort of like, maybe because it feels better when you're overcoming adversity to try to infuse the band with a little more outlaw, when possible. I'm like, guys, we're a doom band, where there should be some element of evil or danger, even if it's driving the van at 70 or 75, it's like, come on, we can break a few rules here just to you don't have to be overly, conscientious, but I don't know, we'll work way out. I'm hope that's our goal, I guess, is hopefully playing some shows so we can get some real debauchery going on. Unlikely, but
definitely. Are you going to play? And when we all get to finally play again and see bands live, are you going to play some of the Satanic Singles stuff, or is that just kind of its own little thing?
Originally, the idea was, we weren't gonna play anything at all from the record at all. But I feel like we should have some stuff. The problem is with our band is that we've got a lot of material, and it's not like we've got any hits. It's not like someone's gonna come to see us and go, okay, well, I really want to hear that song. So in a way, we almost feel like, not that we're comfortable playing anything and not feel obligated to play anything in particular. That said, it would be nice to I think it would be nice to have some of those songs available just to play out, and really, depending on people's reaction to it, maybe we could do a whole show that just nothing but the covers. I don't know. We'll wait and see when we're, when things get back to normal and when we get invited to play places. We'd love to come back to Pittsburgh. I really enjoy playing in Pittsburgh.
Yeah, I got to see you guys when you were here for Descendants of Crom, and that was really fun. Good time. Yeah,
it was a really good show. Every time we've come, we've really enjoyed the shows, and so yeah, I mean, why not? I really feel like there's nothing that we can't do. So why not do one cover? Why not do the whole set of covers?
Yeah, absolutely. All right, last question. We always ask a stupid question here at Riff Zealot to end it, because that's kind of our thing.
Nice.
If Clouds Taste Satanic was a cocktail, what would be in that cocktail?
Red Bull and vodka.
Fuck yeah.
And I only say that because that's all I drink. And and PBRs too. I guess the beer is not a cocktail though. Yeah, definitely Red Bull and vodka.
Red Bull and vodka.
Guys would be aghast at it, but because it's that right mixture of energy and relaxation. The vodka is like the more cerebral, kind of slows you really down a little bit, whereas the Red Bull will give you that kind of jolt every once in a while. So it's up and down. That's what Clouds Taste Satanic should be. There should be some doomy elements. There should be some faster elements. There should be kind of a variety. It should take you on a trip a little bit, so.
Fantastic. All right. So the new singles come out November 6th, the Satanic Singles. Really looking forward to it. Everybody definitely check it out. And Steve, I'll let you say anything you want to say to the fans at home before we finish up.
Thank you personally very much for having talking to me, us. And yeah, I mean, I think that it's really appreciate the people that are very interested in the band. There's because it is somewhat. It takes a special person to be motivated for a 20-minute instrumental song. So we really appreciate those people who have the ability and the desire to get by with 20 minutes of not hearing any vocals, and 20 minutes of it. So we really appreciate the people who are interested in our band, and say thank you.